And this is where Bong Bong Marcos stepped into the story. We're referring to him as BBM now. BBM's first formal role in a political office came with his election as Vice Governor of Ilocos Norte in 1980 to 1983. And at the age of 23, on March 23, 1983, he was installed as the Governor of Ilocos Norte, replacing his aunt, who had resigned from the post due to health reasons. But during the last days of the 1969 Philippine Power Revolution, BBM, in combat fatigue to project his warlike stance, pushed his father Ferdinand Marcos to give the order to his remaining troops to attack and blow up Camp Crame despite the presence of hundreds and thousands of civilians there. The elder Marcos did not follow his son's urgings. Fearful of a scenario in which Marcos' presence in the Philippines would lead to a civil war, the Reagan administration withdrew its support for the Marcos government and flew Marcos and a party of about 80 individuals to Hawaii. And soon after arriving, Marcos Jr. participated in an attempt to withdraw $200 million or 10 billion pesos in today's money, an act which eventually led to the Swiss government freezing the Marcos' bank account in late March that year. After his father's death in 1989, President Corazon Aquino permitted the return of the remaining members of the Marcos family to the Philippines to face various charges. Bong Bong Marcos was among the first to return to the Philippines. He arrived in country in 1991 and soon sought political office, beginning the family's traditional fiefdom in Ilocos Norte. He was in the House of Representatives for 3 years, 9 years for the governor of Ilocos Norte, gone back in House of Representatives, and became a senator in 2010. And in the 2016 election, he would run as vice president together with Miriam Defensor. While even though losing the seat, he would still get the most votes in the most populated areas of the Philippines and only lost to former Vice President Lenny Robredo in only a couple of thousands of votes. In the very beginning, BBM already had a huge group of supporters. And how do you make it bigger to win a landslide? The internet. The State of the Nation address is an annual address by the President of the Philippines to a joint session of the Congress of the Philippines. It's a really big deal in the Philippines. You can see hundreds and hundreds of officers preparing for the sauna. And recently, there's been a shooting in Ateneo de Manila University graduation in the same day as the sauna. The gunman claimed the 3 lives, including a former mayor. Initially, based on their integration of the suspect, they have had a long history of conflict in Lamitan, Basilan. According to them, they filed cases against each other. But another thing to look at is his support with BBM. It photos of the gunman wearing hoodies of the Unity brand to collaboration with BBM and Duterte, and now people are using this as a way of supporting the gunman of his action, including BBM supporters. That's because BBM has a huge following of supporters, apologies, or even trolls. He once admitted that he hired dozens of troll armies.
Presidential aspirant Bong Bong Marcos insists his camp does not deploy troll farms.
Sabi ko, the only option that we have is social media. Kaya yun kami nag-concentrate. Kaya nag-hire ako ng libo-libo na troll army.
And there's been many cases of users being insensitive to others in favor of showing support to BBM and bashing others who have a different opinion as them. In the 2022 election, BBM won in a massive landslide with 58% of the votes, his partner Sarah having a bigger landslide with 61% of the votes. Even though the two had a big lead in the polls, BBM's win wasn't all smooth. He has a ton of unpaid estate tax. He almost got disqualified in the presidential run. He once enrolled at St. Edmund Hall, Oxford, to study philosophy, politics, and economics. However, despite his false claims that he graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in PPE, he did not obtain such a degree. Marcos had passed philosophy but failed economics and failed politics twice, thus making him eligible for a degree. Instead, he received a special diploma in social studies, which was awarded mainly to non-graduates and is currently no longer offered by the university. But BBM still falsely claims that he obtained a degree from the University of Oxford, despite Oxford confirming in 2015 that Marcos did not finish his degree. All of those claims of him not completing university, tax evasion, and more, out of all candidates, that's a bigger that was a target of misinformation from the University of the Philippines, Lenin Robredo was targeted more than BBM. Another study that most of the fake information about BBM was all positive, while in Lenin Robredo, a majority of the fake information about her was negative. While it's just BBM's first ever months in his presidency, one thing is clear. With the pandemic, economic problems, and people that absolutely hate his guts, he will definitely have a rough 6 years.